Okay, let's kick off. Assalamu alaikum everyone, I hope you can hear me. Welcome to our pre-Ramadan talk, first one of the weekend. So we've got Sarah who will be talking us through the struggles of the fried or the bad diets during Ramadan. So it's our pleasure to welcome her, and she'll be guiding us on how to have a nutritionist, healthy Ramadan. Sarah, over to you. And guys, if there's any questions, please type them into the chat or just stop Sarah and ask your question. Okay.
Great, thank you. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you to Al-emaan Center for having me today. And thank you to those who've joined. I'm glad to see quite a good turnout. Hope you can all hear me very well. I hope you're all keeping safe and well during these difficult times, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, we have all been blessed to prepare for another Ramadan. So you're all here today because you want to either improve your health and well-being in general, or just learning about how to optimize your Ramadan, which is all great. There's no better time to start than now. Ramadan is like a great big reset button to us. So inshallah, you will pick up at least one new positive habit, in your diet and lifestyle, and take it with you permanently for the rest of the year, not just during Ramadan. Something I've learned throughout my experience is consistency is the key to success. I'm sure many of you can agree with me when I say that often going big at first and doing too much at once doesn't yield the best results. You just end up giving up and getting hurt. So if you take anything from this talk today, it's this. And I'm giving you homework already, and that is just choose one doable positive change from my list of things to improve and implement it. That's it. You don't have to do everything or, go big or go home. That could be just adding one extra vegetable, during the week, or cutting back on, one coffee, or doing 5 exercises in the kitchen while you're waiting for food to cook. Just do one thing every day, and inshallah, you will see the results. So let's get cracking. Also, I want to make this as interactive as possible. So please fire away with questions, and otherwise we can just leave and have a Q&A session at the end. So just going to cover what a healthy balanced plate should look like for every day, foods to avoid and why, some simple practical healthy swaps you can make, talk about prophetic nutrition, and just how to tackle some common struggles. And I'll just give an overview of how to plan and some other lifestyle tips. So I should just talk a little bit more about myself. So what I do, I'm a nutritional therapist. So I studied a few years ago at the College of Naturopathic Medicine. And now I founded my little freelance business called Mind, Body, Soul Nutrition. I've always been interested in medicine, natural health, nutritional science, and inspired by the Islamic teachings and, the Sunnah. That's why I studied this course, but this was not my primary course. I've done many degrees until I came to this one. But my full-time job is actually I'm a clinical biochemist, so I manage and run a lab and interpret blood results. So, and it all fits in very well. So I have quite a good understanding of how to go about helping individuals achieve their optimum health. So why Mind, Body, Soul Nutrition is because I believe everything is linked. It's not just a pill for an ill. I believe in looking at the whole person, holistically. So I have my 7 pillars of health, which involves mindset, nutrition, movement, sleep, environment, social life, and spirituality. So I'm going to touch a little bit about that, but I just need to make you all aware that, you know, I can't give, you know, specific advice to individuals. I can't, you know, diagnose or provide any substitute to professional medical advice. So just make sure, just to make you all aware of this before we can move on. So what is naturopathic nutritional therapy? Well, it's a system of medicine that focuses on prevention of illness and the use of natural therapies. So we are basically encouraging the natural healing mechanism of the body. So we don't focus on just, you know, looking at one symptom or just one sign, which is quite contrary to conventional medicine. So we look at the person as a whole. And nutrition plays a big part in this, and Ramadan also plays a big part in this, as fasting is extremely, you know, beneficial, and it can bring the body back into balance. So just a little brief history about naturopathy and natural medicine. It's, you know, the term naturopathic medicine is quite a new term, but it is based on, you know, the philosophical roots going back to thousands of years to the forefathers of medicine, like the Greek physicians, Hippocrates and Galen, and the Islamic scholar Ibn Sina, which I'm sure you've all heard of. And again, they all, you know, promoted this, that the body has a potent ability to heal itself using natural therapies, using herbs, using food, using energy healing. So this is, you know, you could go into so much detail, you know, in the history of it. So, but this is just a brief overview of what, you know, inspired me to study this even further. Okay, so before we talk about Ramadan specifically, we need to establish what good nutrition involves and what exactly a healthy balanced diet looks like. There's way more to nutrition than calories, for example. And, you know, we as Muslims are taught to do everything within moderation. We follow the middle path. You know, extremism is never good, you know, whether that's spiritually or nutritionally. So, you know, you need to be careful what you read, you know, with these hardcore carnivores or hardcore vegans. You know, we want to stick to the middle path. And a good overview of this is the Mediterranean diet. It's been scientifically studied now, and we have evidence that it is a good model to follow for the general population, you know, to have a good healthy diet. Obviously, everybody is different. Everyone is unique. Your nutritional needs can differ according to your life stage. You know, babies, if you're going through puberty, pregnancy, the elderly. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about calories, what they are, macronutrients, so fat, proteins, carbohydrates, your micronutrients, which is your minerals and vitamins. And obviously we have something called phytonutrients, which is the naturally occurring chemicals found in plants. So as you see, nutrition is just so much more than, you know, proteins and carbs. So this can also be applied to Ramadan. So this is, when you are looking at this model of the Mediterranean diet, you can see that a big portion of it is plant-based. You want to eat as many plants as you can, and from a variety of sources and a variety of colors. Another aspect is oily, is like fish and seafood, more so than poultry, dairy, and meat. As you can see, meats and sweets is less often. Obviously, wine does not apply to us, alhamdulillah. Well, we should drink water, definitely, as a beverage of choice. And also a very important part is being physically active, and also, you know, enjoying meals with your family, with children. It should be, you know, socializing, having this community spirit. And, you know, this should be revolved around food as well, not just, you know, eating on the go, you know, eating while you're on the train, or eating in front of the TV, in front of your phone. You know, eating should be like a form of, it should be a time of reflection and a time to, you know, catch up with your loved ones. So this is, and they've done studies and they found, you know, that populations or communities which have people who live longer but also live healthy in their older age are those who have a community spirit and who are surrounded by children. So maybe this is something you should think about during Ramadan. So, you know, this is a common misconception about calories, that we should be focusing on calories. You know, you should only be really focusing on calories if you are on a strict protocol. So for example, you really need to lose weight, you have an eating disorder, or an athlete. You know, you should be focusing more about the chemicals actually that are in your food. I do not personally count calories on a regular basis. It's unhealthy and it's restrictive. The idea is that we are aware that our body requires energy. Fat has more calorie per gram than carbohydrates and protein. So you should just be aware that when you consume too many calories, yes, you can put on weight. And if you mix too many fats and carbohydrates together, it's when you have two energy sources, that's what causes the weight gain. So the take-home message really is, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. And this is something you should focus on as well during Ramadan, which is like your reset period. So, excuse me. You know, I'm very well aware how busy life can get, especially, you know, the modern lifestyle. It's very easy to succumb to convenience foods, you know, but these should be eaten on occasion as an emergency. I totally understand. I work full time, my commute is very long. So if I don't meal prep, if I don't plan ahead, then I could easily fall into eating convenience foods. So these diagrams are a very good indication of like how important it is. You can have a nice home cooked meal where you're getting all your essential nutrients and fats instead of, for example, a meal deal from Tesco. And as you can see, it's actually more calories. Something else to think about is, you know, don't be careful of these adverts and things like that, you know, these protein shakes, skinny teas, skinny coffee, you know, all of these are, as you can see by this picture, for example, you've got a great meal on the right, which has got everything you need, and calories are even less than this chemically produced milkshake on the left. So I don't know about you, but I definitely would choose the one on the right. So we'll just talk briefly about carbohydrates first. So if you can see from these pictures, they are a great indication of what in general your plate should look like, whether that's just every day or during Ramadan as well. So you've got your proteins there, you've got your greens, you've got fats from an avocado, you've got and you've got your carbs. So carbohydrates are just naturally occurring sugars. Do not be afraid of carbohydrates. You know, don't be restrictive, because all these vegetables taste amazing, and I think it'll be a sad world if we cut them out of our life. So but we need to aim for low glycemic index, which basically means they are not going to spike our blood sugar. So we naturally have like a blood sugar balance, And when you're eating what we call high glycemic foods, so like chips, sweets, chocolates, sodas on a regular basis, you're putting yourself at higher risk of disease and inflammation because your body is going through this roller coaster. If you've ever noticed, for example, you have cereal in the morning and then you feel good for about an hour, but then you crash, you feel hungry, you feel tired, so you need to eat again, and so on and so forth, and it's just a roller coaster ride. This is something to avoid during your everyday living, but it's definitely something to avoid during Ramadan. One thing you want to avoid, especially during suhoor, is high glycemic foods, because we have such a long day, especially now, like in spring, summer. You want to avoid crashing earlier on in the day, because you might start feeling sluggish, you feel grumpy, you're in a bad mood, you get headaches. So if you don't have a very good suhoor, or if it's very high in the sugar, like these high glycemic carbohydrates, then you're not going to feel great throughout the day. So you want to opt for these lower foods during suhoor and iftar. So fats, just to touch upon very briefly, please don't be afraid of fats. They aren't the demon. Fats themselves don't make you fat. You know, it's okay to eat full fat yogurt and butter, and anything is better than margarine. It's just what happens with fat is, if you, as I briefly mentioned about the calories, when you overconsume the excess fat with excess carbs, that's what causes the weight gain. But the most important of fats I want to touch upon for everyday living and during Ramadan as well, please focus on your omega-3s. These are essential fatty acids. These omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids are what you find in olive oil, flax seeds, oily fish, and they should be consumed regularly to keep the balance within our body. And this balance refers to inflammation. We want to avoid inflammation, because inflammation over a long period of time can cause the modern day diseases that we see today. And what happens in our current modern lifestyle, and especially the Western diet, because we have a lot of trans fats, processed foods, a lot of frying, etc., we are more towards an inflamed state. This is because of the high omega-6 fats in our diet. And what you want is a good ratio between the 3s and the 6. So this is, omega-3s are essential. You can get them from avocado, your seeds, olives. You can have snack, you can have them as part of your main meal. So during Ramadan, have them during suhoor or iftar, or you can even have it as a snack after your iftar, is totally fine. So let's touch upon protein. So protein is really important during fasting and Ramadan, because protein is what's going to keep you fuller for longer. Protein also has a load more functions, not just for giving you energy, but it helps with boosting your immune system. So if you're somebody who may be getting recurrent infections, you may consider upping your protein intake. So the protein deficiency can be quite common in our Western society, because if you think about it, if you're having cereal or toast for breakfast, if you're having sandwich for lunch, and you're having pasta for dinner, you're not getting much protein in there. And sorry, oh. Did somebody want to ask a question? No? Okay. So we need to consume at least 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein. So what you do is you do 0.8 and you multiply that by how much you weigh. And that's how much protein you need throughout the day. So during Ramadan, what you can do is just split that between suhoor and iftar, and you could possibly have, so if you're going to stay late, you can do tarawih or tahajjud, or if you just want to stay up with your family, then you can have a snack as well, like a protein snack, which is fine. And as you can see by this picture, You'd be surprised. Protein is not just meat. You can find it in like legumes, like chickpeas and stuff. So maybe switch it up. Instead of having regular white flour pasta, have chickpea pasta instead.
I've got a quick question on that. So it's a simple one. How does chickpea pasta taste? Have you had it before?
I have not had chickpea. I've had lentil, which is nice, lentil pasta. Brown rice, brown rice is probably the closest to regular pasta. Buckwheat pasta, which is quite strong. It's not to everybody's taste. Well, I can't imagine it that strong, to be fair. And I think now because people are being more aware of like gluten intolerances and gluten deficient, celiac disease, there's a lot of like different sources now instead of
cool. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure. Hi.
Yeah. What about regular pasta and green spinach pasta? Because I've had green spinach pasta. It tastes like spinach, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is there a difference in regular pasta and that?
So spinach pasta. So yeah, I don't think they use flour with. I'm not sure if they use flour with that one. Yes. So I think obviously with the spinach pasta, you're gonna have so that because it's greens in there, you're gonna have a lot more of a what we call a nutrition. It's going to be more nutritionally complete compared to white flour, because white flour is not very nutritious, because during the process of white flour, when they make it, they actually remove the part, like the heart of the wheat, which has got the nutrition in it. So then you just end up with flour, which is basically acts like sugar. So yeah, spinach pasta is definitely a better shout in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we've talked briefly about macronutrients. So I'm just going to talk about micro. So we also need these in our diet, which is your vitamins and your minerals. So these are tiny molecules that were required in small amounts, but they are very powerful. So an example I can think of is like vitamin A, which is good for your eyes. So minerals, for example, calcium is a big one. Calcium is good for the bones. It's a common misconception that people think you can only get calcium from dairy. Actually, you can get calcium from leafy greens, from almonds, from sesame seeds. You don't need to be eating dairy all the time to be getting your calcium intake. So things like iodine and selenium is good for a gland that's called thyroid, which is involved in heat control in the body, which is involved in metabolism. So you can get that from your seafood, seaweed, salt, and selenium. You can, if you have like 2 to 4 Brazil nuts a day, that's your selenium intake for the day done. You've got things like potassium found in bananas, which is good for workouts and exercise and just general muscle function. So iron is a really important nutrient. Iron deficiency is very common in children and in women of childbearing age. So iron can be found in red meat, spinach, lentils. And remember with iron, it's if you have iron, for example, with a glass of milk, or if you have, let's say if you have red meat and then afterwards you have a cup of tea, for example, that's actually going to reduce your iron absorption. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're iron deficient, maybe take your iron supplement with a glass of orange juice, because orange juice has vitamin C, which helps iron absorption, whereas dairy and things like tea block iron. Magnesium, which is good for muscles, good for sleep, good for mood. So can be found in dark chocolate, whole greens, green veg. And zinc, for example, is good for male health and the immune system, which can be found in a variety of foods as well. And you have your vitamins, which I'm sure you've all heard of, which are split into fat soluble and water soluble. So if you're somebody who has problems with malabsorption, so if you have fat malabsorption, for example, you might want to check, for example, your vitamin D, because you might be deficient, because we need fat to absorb these vitamins. And then we also have your B vitamins and vitamin C, which again, they can be found in a variety of foods. Now, because of our modern lifestyle, foods can be quite deplete in multivitamins, in our vitamins, in our minerals, because of the soil quality, because of the chemicals that are used, like pesticides. So it would be good to take a multivitamin on a regular basis to make sure you're fully, covered. Obviously, please seek professional advice before supplementing. But before supplements, you can do it through nature. So if you're finding it difficult to get in your fruit and veg regularly, then you can take a powder, which is called a super green powder. They basically, mix up a load of different greens into a powdered form. You literally just put them in smoothies or juices, which is actually, during a time like Ramadan, when you're fasting, throughout the day, you might actually become slightly nutrient deficient because if you think about it, we're only eating 2 meals a day, and sometimes it's not always easy, to get up for suhoor. So maybe consider what we call nature's multivitamins. So, chicken liver is an exceptional source of, different vitamins and minerals. So, prophetic nutrition, I just want to touch upon what our beloved Prophet ﷺ used to eat. And these are things that you can include during your Ramadan this year, inshallah. And these are great options. That way you're covering all the nutrients that we've talked about, and you're also doing a sunnah. And they are also have different properties themselves. So I'm sure you're all aware of the hadith that he used to eat dates with cucumber. Why? Because dates have pretty much everything you need. They have carbohydrates, they have protein, they have vitamins and minerals. They even have a hormone, or a similar type hormone called oxytocin, which is actually what we call the happy hormone. So it makes us happy. And they actually give this to, they advise pregnant women who are in labor to eat dates, because they need oxytocin to ease the labor process. And cucumbers are very hydrating. So what do we need most, or what do we crave the most when we're fasting, is water. We really want to drink. So make sure you're hydrating. It's really important that you're hydrating when you break the fast and during suhoor as well. I think the most important is at suhoor time. So if you can't just, if you don't fancy just drinking water all the time, obviously you need to eat something. So you can have cucumber, you can have watermelon, grapes, are good as well. And if you're having fruit during suhoor, make sure you have it with maybe a side of protein, so like cheese or yogurt, like goat milk yogurt is a sunnah food as well.
So this is a verse here. A quick question: how much water would you recommend to drink at suhoor?
So I know generally we are supposed to be drinking about 8 glasses a day. So if you could try for 3 at suhoor, and then the rest during the night time, like after iftar, I think that is doable. I know suhoor is a very difficult time for most people, because when you get up, sometimes you just don't fancy, eating or drinking. So try at least a minimum of 3 glasses of water at suhoor. So how much do we actually need to eat? So in general, for everyday living, this is what we're, there's a little quote that says, breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and dinner like a pauper. So like a poor person, because obviously throughout the daytime you're active, you're doing stuff, so you can eat quite a bit during the daytime, because you'll burn it off and you use it. What you want to avoid doing, and this is especially during Ramadan, is to sleep on a full stomach. So if you're over consuming at iftar, you know what happens. You just become sleepy and lazy, and the worst thing you can do is fall asleep on a full stomach. You need to wait at least 2 hours before you fall asleep to give your digestive system time to digest that food. So as soon as you finish your food, you need to get up and move. So if you see this little diagram here, this is more about portion control. So if you use your hand as a guide for how much you should be eating, I know on a, we are definitely eating more than we should be as a society on a whole, because I know for a fact that I don't, eat as much as my hand. I'm sure I eat more than that. And especially when it's iftar, it's very easy to just want to eat everything that's in front of you. So that's just something to be conscious of, something to be aware of, is to avoid overconsumption. If you're putting on weight during Ramadan, then something is not right.
Sorry, just a question on the movement. So for example, at the moment, obviously we're in self-isolation because of COVID-19. So it's going to be difficult to sort of go out or go for a walk. Of course. Yeah. So what would you suggest that we do, say, after we have our iftar, in terms of exercise or something?
Yeah, of course. So I have put a little slide just on exercise, but what you can do is, so obviously praying is movement. So of course, if you can, if you're going to pray Isha and stuff, that's helpful in itself. If you wait not immediately after food, so exercise you can do some gentle yoga still. You can still, I don't know, it depends on where you live exactly, but even going for a little walk, maybe you can still go out for a walk, in your area. That is better than nothing. After dinner. There's you can just do a little, maybe after you've fully digested, if you have the energy, maybe after an hour of food or an hour and a half, you could do like a little 5-minute, 7-minute workout. I recommend a few at the end.
Okay, thank you.
It's all right. So again, this, you don't want to overconsume. And if we follow the sunnah, we're supposed to be filling our stomach like a third with water, a third with drink, a third with food, and a third with air. So if you can still breathe normally after dinner, then you're fine. Again, this is just in general. Don't wait until you're really hungry to eat, but don't stop until you're extremely full. Try and eat at similar times every day. So when you eat is just as important as what you eat. So I've touched upon briefly about inflammation before, how inflammation, when our body is out of balance and when we're giving it the wrong foods, the wrong environment, not sleeping well, or there's too much stress going on, this can what triggers inflammation. And sometimes it can take months and it can take years to manifest as disease. So if you have any of the warning signs, this means that you need to reduce inflammation in your body. And this is a good time to be conscious of it during Ramadan, like I said, because it's kind of like a detox process. And I'm sure if you all attend the talk later on about the benefits of fasting, fasting itself is anti-inflammatory. So, this is the perfect time to work on your nutrition during the fasting period as well. So things that you can do, just some 5 simple things you can do to reduce inflammation in your body, which will be great to start doing in Ramadan. So fried food, you know, try grilling or steaming instead. Steaming is a great option for vegetables because that's the one that retains the most nutrients as possible. Boiling, I would avoid unless you're making a soup. Processed meat, try and opt for grass-fed meat. Organic would be even better. And so not only do we eat halal, but we want tayyib meat. So tayyib meaning we want the animal to be treated in a good way. So that animal has had to have a good lifestyle and good food as well. What we are, you know, experiencing at the moment is a lot of mass-produced meat and dairy products, which can have negative effects on our health. Again, refined carbohydrates, which means, you know, your white flour, your cereals, your cakes, sweets, chocolates, all these, which are tasty things, but they're not great in the long term. Swap them for root vegetables. So just experiment, try different vegetables. You've got carrots, sweet potato, turnip, squash. You can do so many great things now. Pulses, that's your lentils, your beans and whole grains, like quinoa, for example, brown rice. Sugar is a big one. Sugar, I know, is difficult. You know, you can have, if you have a lot of sugar in your diet, you can have like withdrawal symptoms, a bit like coffee. So just taper it down slowly. You know, for example, if you're having sugar in your teas, maybe just reduce the amount every day until you come off it completely. And you can have alternatives. So alternatives would be fruit. So fruits, yes, they are sweet. They have their natural sugars, but it's natural, you know. And usually with fruit, you're eating the whole fruit. So it has fiber, it has protein, it has other vitamins and minerals that work together with the natural sugar. Coconut sugar is great. It's quite fibrous, so you need fiber to help, you know, the sugar to be, again, to avoid that roller coaster throughout the day. And honey and maple syrup. Vegetable oils, this is what you use to fry and stuff. Change that up. So if you require something to be cooked in high heat, opt for ghee or butter. Something on a lower heat, go for olive oil. So if you want to just like saute some, you know, vegetables, or you know, if you want to just roast some vegetables in the oven, use olive oil. I personally don't like coconut oil, but you can try that if you want. But if you're making like, you know, something like stir fry or ghee or, you know, curries or whatever, maybe try ghee instead. So caffeine, I know, is a big one during Ramadan. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, you know, it's natural to caffeine withdrawal. I suppose the same goes to sugar. I know during that first week of Ramadan, we can all experience some of these, but that's just your body sort of, yeah, it just goes through eliminating what's not needed. And then you come back, usually if you've not noticed, after the first week, you're feeling so much better the next week or so. But if you're somebody who drinks a lot of caffeine, maybe don't go cold turkey all at once. So starting from now, start reducing your caffeine intake. So start lowering the amount. If you have 3 cups, reduce to 2 cups and keep doing that up until next week. You know, you can switch it up, have 1 decaf instead of normal, switch one up and have matcha tea or green tea. So matcha tea and green tea are great because you have a little bit of caffeine, but you have something else in it called, it's an amino acid called L-theanine, which is very relaxing and calming. So you have a very nice balance there with your green teas and your matcha. Hot chocolate, you know, instead of coffee, if you fancy some like a warm drink or whatever. Cinnamon is a great herb, like a spice to add into your meals. You can add it into your coffees, into your desserts, anything really. Cinnamon is used for blood sugar control, so it helps in that aspect. And it's good for cravings and for addictions as well. And mint tea is really nice. You know, sometimes I have mint tea after iftar. So it's okay to exercise while fasting. Obviously, if you have, if you're fit and healthy, I would recommend doing exercise before iftar. So just like 1 to 2 hours before iftar, because then you know that you're going to have something to drink and you can have something to eat. You know, you don't have to do full on, you don't have to run or do marathons or whatever, but any type of movement is beneficial. Don't think that you have to like, you have to do a lot. Just simply walking, a little brisk walk around the block, walking, you know, up and down your street is still great. Walking is sunnah as well. You can do these little home workouts. So there's this great app on the iPhone. I think it's on App Store. I don't know if it's just iPhone. It's called 7. It's literally just called 7. And it's these 7-minute home workouts. It's a full body workout and it's great. It's literally something you can do anytime, anywhere.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey.
Hi. I wanted to ask quickly.
Hi, Anita.
Sorry, I wanted to ask quickly. You know, I know Islamically, like pregnant and breastfeeding women don't have to fast.
Yes.
But, so my baby is currently weaning, so he's not completely dependent on breast milk. So if I wanted to keep a few and see how I go, is there any foods that you suggest that might help a breastfeeding mother as opposed to not, or would it just be the same kind of advice?
Okay, yeah, because you're breastfeeding, yeah, I did this talk just for general, but yeah, pregnancy and breastfeeding is different in the sense that you will need more nutrients and calories, because obviously you have this little one depending on you now, so that you don't become tired and fatigued and you still have energy. And just for your own, you know, well-being, I would up your so if you do want to fast, so yeah, just your suhoor, have a little bit extra food, the same for, you know, your iftar, and you know, like maybe have more calorie rich, like carbohydrate rich food. So oats is really good. That's really good for breast milk supply. So maybe have a porridge, you know, as well as some like fruit and some yogurt and stuff. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So I've just done little suhoor examples. I know this is quite a difficult one for many of us. So if you want something sweet, so an option could be to have some organic live yogurt. I say live meaning it has probiotics. So we need natural probiotics, which is basically good bacteria. We need that for optimal gut health, to help with our digestion. You can have that with some nuts and seeds and have it with some berries. And you can also have any of the sunnah foods that I mentioned before. So you can have between 1 to 7 dates, depending on how hungry you are. I know 7 dates is very, very hard to eat. And you can have that with some watermelon, cucumber, or grapes. You can make a smoothie. That's a really quick and easy option. If anybody wants these slides, I'm very happy to share. I've put this link here because there's some great smoothie recipes on there. But make sure that you've got your these four main you know, nutrients here. So you got protein, fat, fiber in a smoothie. So that way you're nice and full for the day. So an example of a smoothie would be protein powder, have some like almond butter or peanut butter in there, have some seeds, have some a bit of berries in there, and or like banana and some spinach. And for if you want savory options, so eggs are great. They'd be cooked in 7 minutes. You can even prepare in advance by making a frittata, which is basically just you beat the eggs, crack them over some sweet potato or spinach, and you just let it cook in the oven for a couple of minutes so it's nice and fluffy. And you can just keep that in the fridge, and you can have that the next morning. Beans are great. You could even have like last night's dinner, just as long as it fulfills all the criteria that I've touched upon today. And so if you're somebody who doesn't tolerate oats very well, or I know for me, for example, I don't tolerate oats very well. I crash very easily afterwards. To avoid that, you just have protein and fat with it. So like what I've mentioned with the nut butters, for example, lots of seeds in there, with some fruit or dates, or you can make it savory, you can have it with a bit of milk or cream with some, you can add eggs, herbs, you do whatever really. And quinoa is a different type of, it's a grain, but it's not like a flour based grain. And quinoa is it's a great protein source actually. And so it'll keep you fuller for longer. So just a summary, really. Best foods to include in iftar. Opt for grilled or steamed veg. Maybe try go a little bit more vegetarian instead of relying on meat all the time. So, mix it up with some beans, chickpeas. Try, cauliflower rice instead of regular rice. And obviously add in all your fats. Try some fish, maybe a couple times a week. Try chicken liver. So, this is not just for the next couple of weeks. Try to start small, but I think it's really important to, plan and prepare and be organized. It's okay to meal prep. You don't have to be slaving away in the kitchen every day. So even if you wanted to meal prep beforehand, so what I find useful is making menus. So every week, so like Sunday is my meal prep day. I'll make a menu for the week. That'll include my breakfast, my lunch, my snacks. Well, obviously for Ramadan, it'll just be my for suhoor and iftar. And so even if you wanted to just, even if it makes life easier, if you have everything chopped up, ready in the fridge, what you need to eat, that will save you a lot of time, save you having to think about what to eat, and you'll always have something nutritious to eat. Do one thing new at a time, don't overdo it. And obviously having dessert is fine. It's all about balance and moderation. The 80-20 rule, it's okay if just pick yourself back up if you fall off. Don't give up. If you need to work with a professional, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes it's beneficial to see your lifestyle from another person's view. Look after yourselves. This is a long-term investment for both your mind, your body, and your soul. And and this is my final slide. I'm going to leave some time for questions, but I've got just some sources here. If you want to know a little bit more about prophetic medicine, one of the most original sources is by Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. And then we have, so a friend of mine has recently just released her Ramadan nutrition guide, which is great. She's got a paper copy and ebook, which is a simple guide that you can use if you need a bit more guidance. If you want more ideas for plant-based recipes, so how to use vegetables on a regular basis, So if you fancy, for example, a shepherd's pie, but you don't want to use meat, so this is deliciously Ella is good for that. And Dr. Rangan Chatterjee has released a book called Feel Better in 5, which is literally 5 minutes, how to, you know, exercises you can do in 5 minutes, which are really effective, and just making the most use of your time, you know, in your lifestyle and nutritionally as well. I've left my contact details there if anybody wants more info. Thank you.
Well, I guess, Sarah, that was really, really good. Great amount of information. There's a couple of questions on the chat. One, I'm just going to pick up. Why is coffee not recommended during Ramadan?
So coffee can be dehydrating, and it also depletes magnesium and iron. So if you are not, you know, if you're not eating very well during that day, if you're not taking a multivitamin, for example, that's why it's just best to avoid it. And obviously you're not drinking as much water as you would normally do throughout the day. That's why. But I mean, if you wanted to have a little, you know, 1 shot of coffee after your iftar, you know, to keep you going, if you want to pray Taraweeh or whatever, that's fine. It's okay.
Perfect. There was another question earlier on. This was around the time you were talking about sugar. It was around in terms of khajur dates. What about dates? I know you kind of answered that, but maybe just kind of why are dates different to normal sugar or refined sugar? I think it's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, it's because dates have they're basically complete in the sense that they're very fibrous. So we need fiber. So fiber and sugar work well together in the sense that fiber diminishes the bad side of sugar. I'm just trying to explain it in a very simple way possible, in the sense that basically firstly, it's natural sugars, so it's not the same as white sugar. And you know, in plants, everything works in synergy, it all works together. And when you have good amount of fiber in your body, then your body's response is, it doesn't release too much insulin, which basically, so you're not, basically the sugar is being used up correctly. It's hard to explain in layman's terms, sorry. But I hope that answers the question. I know dates is a complicated one. Anything else?
Anyone else? Okay, if not, your contact details are down at the bottom of the slide anyway. So Jazakallah khair for this. It's fantastic. Sorry, my son just took my headset. Really, really good.
Thank you everyone for attending.
No, Jazakallah khair. This is really fantastic. And I think it's, as in practical advice we can all take on. I was actually looking at buying some rice pasta now. So that will arrive before Ramadan starts. Just to everyone else, so we've got another talk tomorrow, 8:30, same time. This will be on the medical benefits of Ramadan or fasting. So please join there as well. Sarah, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much for your time and effort putting this together.
We have one more.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about the benefits of fasting and the inflammation. When will that be?
Oh, there's another talk on the benefits of fasting. Yeah, I'm not involved in that. Maybe
that's tomorrow 8:30. There'll be another link sent out around midday tomorrow. You can join through there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cool. Jazakallah khair then. Thank you everyone for joining. Assalamu alaikum.
Great. Thank you. Michael Sam. Bye.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.